Hi guys, welcome to my channel and welcome back to my channel. I just want to start this off by saying this is like the 8th time I've started to record this video. So hopefully this time I get it right and it goes smoothly from here on out. So it's spring break 2008, and on the first day of the spring break, 19-year-old Brendan Swanson decides he's going to attend some parties as the start or the introduction to his spring break. Now, at the first party he joined, people said he didn't drink very much. He wasn't like overly partying, but he was enjoying himself and he was having fun. It's a low key party. There was like about 5 to 6 people, his friends, close knit, very low key. He then leaves that party and goes to another party, and there it's said that he doesn't drink very much either. He's very chilled back, very laid back, very cautious about his alcohol intake. Around midnight, Brendan decides to leave that party and decides to go home to Lynn. But he's afraid of the police. He's afraid he's going to get called over for DOI and then arrested. So he decides to take the shortcut. Now, the shortcut is through these big farmlands. Now, it's before the harvest time, so the harvest isn't very tall. The grass, the plantations aren't very tall. They're about halfway, and he's driving, and then he gets into a major car accident, falls into a ditch, as we say. So afraid of what his parents would say, because he's going from these places to Lynn, where he's originally from. So, anyways, he's panicking and he's calling his friends now. Can't call the mother, she's gonna get upset. Can't call the father, he's going to get upset. But with no luck, after I don't know how many times, he decides to give up, takes a deep breath, and calls up his parents. I'm stuck. I don't know where I am. It's dark. I can see lights. I think it's Lynn. I'm not sure. Parents say, okay, they're going to come and fetch you. So they jump in the car and they start driving. Brendan is in the car, outside the car. Nothing. He's flashing his lights, flashing. He can't see his parents. His parents can't see his flashing lights. He gets anxious. So it's around 3 o'clock when this happens, right? But in between, they're phoning back and forth. So you must understand it's 2008. There is no GPS location on the cars. There is no check my family on the phones. There is no smartphones. It's those normal brick phones, as we like to call them, the brick phones, where you just call an SMS and that's it, and you have a snake game on it. So he decides that he can see the lights. He's going to walk to the lights, and maybe halfway through, he'll bump into his parents. So anyway, he's walking. He's going back and forth, giving locations as best as they can because it's dark. There's no lights. There's no signs. Brendan is in the lost, but he thinks he knows where he is, so he's giving directions based on what he thinks the place is called or where he thinks he is. After some time, around 3:30, as he's walking, he decides that he can take a shortcut through the plantations. As he's taking a shortcut through the plantation, he's still on the phone with his mom and dad. They driving, looking. He says this is the last. I think this is the most haunting part of the story, because this is the last words he says, and it's very ambiguous because you don't know what happens. There's a scream, and then oh shit, that's the last they hear from Brandon. So they stay on the line a little bit. Maybe they thought he tripped and dropped the phone. He's gonna look for it and find it, but it never happens. So they cut the call the police. Initially, the police tell them no, Brandon is allowed to be missing because he's an adult. Um, they can't really do anything about it. He's a teenager. He was partying. He probably doesn't want to come home because he's drunk. You know, the same mumbo jumbo from the police officers, especially in that part. After some time, they realize, no, like, okay, we should go look for him. So they go look for him. This bloodhound, they speak to the friends at various parties. Eventually, they find the car in the ditch. They can understand why Brendan was panicking because he couldn't bring the car up. He couldn't reverse up. So he was panicking. That's why he called his friends and his family. Get the bloodhound. The car was found around 120 miles away from Lynn, in a town called Ton. Ton. can't pronounce it properly. So where Brandon thought he was way off from where he was. You must remember there was no street signs because he took the back roads. No street signs, no lights, no insignia to tell him where he is. He just assumed he was in Lynn, so the search started in Lynn. But through the GPS, not GPS, but through the cell phone towers, they found out where the signal was coming from, and the signal was coming from Ton, which is almost 180 miles away from Lynn. So they get there and they find the car in the ditch. Then they bring the bloodhounds. The grass is still, the plantations, the grass, everything's still short. It's not harvest time yet. This is like in May or something. So they take the bloodhound. The bloodhound follows Brandon's trail to a river. So the police think, oh, okay, he's drowned. He fell in and drowned. So the parents are skeptical, like if he fell in and drowned, I'm not saying he couldn't have had the phone fallen out of his hand while he fell into the river. But the fact that they could still hear him means that it did fall out of his hand. So it means he didn't fall in the river with him. Otherwise, it would have been dead. Once the phones were in the water, they were dead. You couldn't restart them, you couldn't put them in rice, you couldn't do anything because they weren't smartphones, right? So they were skeptical that he fell because they found that his scent went over the river, took the bloodhounds over the river into the plantations. Now they decided to stop it because it was harvest time, right? At this point, they smelt his scent on a farmer's equipment. If you know farmers, they're very aggressive, bitter, gnarly people. Like they think the whole world's against them. They think life is very hard for them, right? So they asked the farmer after the fact, after the harvest happened, can they test his equipment? And he's like flat out no. So whether it's suspicious or not is up to you to think, but I think that's very suspicious. Because then why didn't no one let them search? No trace. There was aid, there was people on the ground. They covered like a lot of ground, like a lot of plantations. And like I said, it was before the harvest. So the things wasn't high, and when it was after the harvest, it was even lower than it was before the harvest. Nothing. So they have theories. Number one, he drowned in the river, and the cell phone is missing somewhere in the plantation. Number two, he met up with a creature or serial killer and got murdered. Could be a farmer or anybody who was looking for hunting that was looking for prey that night to murder. Or he died of hypothermia. It was quite cold at that time of night in that season. So he might have been walking, and because it was so long he was walking, he might have dropped dead from hypothermia, and then the tractors. But my point is, the grass was low, so it was before harvest. So if he was laying in the field, why didn't they find him laying in the field? It's 2024. He went missing in 2008. There is nothing. Radio silence. From 2008 to 2024 June, there is nothing. No sign, no trace, no anything from this boy. Because if he's dead, he's still 19 years old. If he's not dead, he's probably 35, 36. But most probably he's dead. You had a big search. You missed out almost 1 day of searching because you thought it was his right to be missing. And if you had searched on that first day, if they had searched on that first day, maybe they could have found clues, contextual clues, DNA clues. Maybe they could have found him, but they decided because they were so blatantly. I would say it's wrong to tell someone who's coming to you in a panic saying that my son is missing, and the last things you heard as a mother was, oh shit, and then dead silence. And you as a police officer shows little to no compassion towards that mother. At the end of the day, even though he was 19 years old, he was still a child and he was still missing. The mere fact that he called his parents to help him means he was in dire straits. But anyway, they missed out on some time of looking for him, but maybe, not maybe, definitely lost out on DNA evidence, contextual clues, all of that could have been washed away. I mean, he could have been laying where he dropped his phone. We don't know if he was kidnapped and tortured first before he was murdered. We don't know anything about that situation. So How do you justify that? How do you live with that as a police officer? That you could have done something more had you started sooner and had you not dismissed or disregarded or discounted the parents' feelings or situation. You do not need to wait 48 hours to report someone missing, and they do not need to wait 48 hours to go searching. It's just a precautionary thing. But if you are there in a panic, they need to do their jobs. It's 2024. It's almost like 16 years later that this child has been missing. We don't know where he is. All we have is his car. So, yeah, that's the story for today. I really summed it up because I didn't want to take too much time, but yeah, he didn't have a really high, according to his friends, he didn't have a really high alcohol level. He was 100 to 180 miles away from his hometown in another town. Um, he was clearly lost, and no one knows where he is. And his last was oh shit. And imagine living with that. Imagine knowing that 16 years later and you have no idea where your son is. Please, as parents, I know when your children turn 17, 18, 19, you relinquish like some sort of hold on them. But with the technology today, I think you should be more involved. Put trackers on their phone, whatever you need to do to make sure you know where they are at all times. I mean, this could have been just an accident. It could have been murder. It could have been anything. But he disappeared from the face of the earth for nearly 16 years, and he's still missing. No body parts have been found. So, yeah, that's the story for today. Tell me if you like it, and please don't forget to subscribe, comment. Even in the comments, if you think I can tell these stories in a better way, then do so for me. Thank you very much. Bye.